I feel like the Jujutsu Kaisen fan base is in a really good place right now. The anime's been really solid. You know, it's got a really good soundtrack with pretty, really solid opening as well. People really like that. And then the manga is, in the climax of the Shibuya incident, and everything it just seems to be working really well together. I think, like, there doesn't seem to be anything going on right now within either kind of setup that would be negative. Like, the anime has, like I said, drawing in a lot of new people, and the manga is in the climax of like a really big arc. I think they timed this really well, to be perfectly honest. But in this chapter, we see a lot of what kind of is the inspiration for Mahito's whole design, because we know that when it came to like Dagon and Jogo and Nanami, or sorry, Hanami, not Nanami, they were all like created from the fear people had of like aspects of nature, the earth, the sea, and the forest. Whereas Mahito was born from like humans hating other humans. So he is more set off of the idea of why humans would hate each other. And I think in this chapter, plus what we've seen long prior to this, really builds off of that. But then we also see Todo, and I really like Todo. I think he's really cool as like a character, because he has, personality wise, he's presented like a comedy character a lot of the time. He's put up kind of silly, even the way like when he does his clapping, like his ability is called, was it Boogie Woogie is like the name he gave it. It's got a silly name. Like when we first kind of like really saw it in action against Hanami, we had like some panels that were, kind of like done in like this almost like very good vibes, like he's in a dance way, and then we got like some silly ones, and we got some cool ones. He's weird because he is he's like got some ideas of like a gag character, but it's done way more in a serious manner. Like the way that you can kind of look at him as an individual, it's kind of like Ichiya from Fairy Tail, but done way more serious and way less comedy, but keeping the idea of comedy tied to him. I think that's really cool, because he has also like this design that design kind of theme, like just as base physical design has it has like a tone that reminds me a little bit of Ichibe from Bleach, not in the same like exact like concept, outside of he's like this big monk, because Ichibe was this guy who like gave names to everything in the Soul Society and stuff, but like design wise, just looking at him, he looks just like this big boy monk. And Todo is like that, but instead he's like this meathead martial artist version with like a silly personality a lot of the time. I like that. I think he's fun. And then on top of those things, the thing I think that makes him way more enjoyable is not only is he like this cool, funny, badass dude, he is set up as like one of the high potential people. Kind of like Yuji and Megumi, Yuta, Todo is one of them. So he has all of these big bonus traits that would go on a character who probably at the start, if you just started reading what his personality is like, you wouldn't think he's that, like, you would probably think he's just some like one-off silly character. And then you go further down the line and you see like past that basic goofiness, he's actually really important and like a really like just powerful character. And this chapter did show a scene that really kind of depicted either how fast he adapts or how fast he's like plans ahead. Because we saw in his fight against Hanami that he thinks very quickly. There was that one part where he like had a moment, like internal kind of vision in his head. What is it? I think he was talking to like his I can't remember if he was talking to like the idol, or if it was when he had the flashback and we saw Yuki Tsukumo, his teacher, one of these special grade humans. I can't remember exactly which of those two happened in that part, but when we got that, then he came back and he like started to think way faster, and he figured out exactly what Hanami's ability did. Like he's very clever in combat on top of that, and I like how it's depicted. But so this fight, like going down, like you have essentially three super high potential characters, because Mahito is essentially what they are to humans, but for curses. Because you had Jogo, Hanami, and Dagon. Well, Nanami and Jogo were both really powerful. Dagon was kind of like similar to Mahito in that he's powerful, but he has high potential, as we saw. But he wasn't like as progressed as Jogo or Hanami. It's like Mahito and Dagon were both these high potential like special grade curses, but they were kind of like very inexperienced special grade curses, but Mahito's is just a way higher ceiling of like how powerful he could become, because his whole setup, like being from the hatred of humans, he's very fast at adapting and evolving. As we've seen every single part where he's been involved in the story, his character has kind of just gotten wilder and crazier and like more sadistic and just kind of cruel. And I think that's really where the, you know, ties to the whole theme of, you know, being born from the hatred of humans, that works really well. But like, just the action of this fight has been really cool. I like the dynamic between Todo and Yuji. I think everyone's really liked that. And I think the dynamic between them just adds like a really good extra combination to like their fighting styles in general. Because outside of Divergent Fist, Yuji isn't like a very, he's not a very kind of like widespread like technique based fighter, and I mean that in like different techniques, not in like one single one, because as we've seen, he's like this street martial artist. He's really good at picking up moves and stuff, and he's very physically strong, but it's not like he has a bunch of different just kind of like abilities. Like, just if he had, oh, you know, basic sorcerer techniques, you know, he knows a bunch, like just a whole bunch of them. Kind of like if you were in Bleach, on top of like normal Shinigami stuff, you had Kido and Hado and stuff. It was just kind of a bonus thing you can have on there that any of them could learn. Like, Yuji can't really do much for that, but combining him with Todo, because Todo, like when we were first shown him, he was just this big meaty brawler. He didn't even really show his technique, and then we saw his technique, and he's really good with it. But I think as a multiple person fight, probably the more people he has in a fight that are, you know, can work well with him, the better he is, just because his isn't just, oh, he's like really strong and, you know, he's got a pretty, you know, he's got a pretty good ability. He's really good at implementing his ability, I think, is one of the bigger things about him, because of how fast he can just kind of like swap places with somebody, or, you know, it doesn't even have to be him with someone else. It can be somebody with an object, or, you know, as we've seen Mahito and somebody or something else. And when he like sets up stuff for like Yuji to get right in and either use like just some big physical attack or use a black flash, it really shows his potential. And then in this chapter, when you have Mahito set up like his strategy, he does this whole 0.2 second domain expansion, touches part of Todo. Todo immediately cuts his hand off, because Todo's just, you know, he's that guy. He's very serious in these kind of fights. I'm wondering, you know, if he'll get like a hand grown back, like some way that like, oh yeah, because it's not a vital organ or something, like we have a way to kind of like artificially create a hand. I don't remember if that's something that's been in the series before. I had to go back and look. Or if he gets some form of weapon like hand. You could probably give him something cool like that, like a Captain Hook kind of thing. The only thing after that would be like the question of how he uses power regularly, because we know in this chapter he can use it in you know, via his opponents. Like when he loses a hand, because that's Mahito's trying to, for one, render his ability unusable. So he goes, cuts his hand up, and it's like, okay, you can't clap anymore, and Mahito hits him with a black flash. But that's not going to stop Todo. Todo goes and you know, smacks his own hand onto Mahito's open hand, so it doesn't have to just be his hands, it can be somebody else's hands. So the clapping itself is the trigger. It doesn't have to be him clapping, which again is really intriguing, because how exactly, like, well, what are the limits of it? Does it have to just be hands, or is that just the base? Like, could he smack himself on the chest or smack his leg? You know, could he get an artificial hand, like I said earlier, and kind of like utilize it that way? It's got you know, like I said, a lot of good questions, a lot of high level potential, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it is, because Todo is one of the people that I don't think he's gonna die this arc. Like, we've lost a couple people, and there are some people in critical condition that we don't know whether or not are gonna make it out of this. I don't think Todo is gonna die, because Todo is one of the people that have been hyped up by like Satoru and stuff as like eventually they're going to become special grades, and then special grade isn't going to be a term that could really even gauge their strength. Like, he wants them to kind of be like him or Sukuna, like level people, where it's like they're in special grade rank, but honestly, if there were more of them, you just have to make a brand new rank. Because I would assume the only reason that Satoru and Sukuna are even in special grade is because there's not many of that. There's not enough of these like people that are in the ceiling of special grade to make a new, you know, a new classification. But while Mahito still trying to figure out, like, you know, stuff, whatever he needs to do to kind of continue this fight, I think that his moment with with Sukuna when he like for a very brief moment he was like inside of, you know, in that inner world with Mahito, and he's like, I think he's kind of just discussing that, you know, it was very brief and he's not trying to touch his soul, he's just kind of like being in there for a moment with him, and he's like, you know, he'll be dead before he can switch with him. And I think that was really interesting because Mahito is essentially, again, the equivalent to what Yuji is for the humans. Like, if he can master Sukuna, or at least like gain strong enough to get control of him, or even achieve this like super high special grade that Satoru wants, that's gonna be, you know, be really big for humanity. But Mahito, even though they want Sukuna to get let out to like make this new age for curses, Mahito is growing into something that could potentially do that even without Sukuna. And like, while they're you know, they're going about this scene, so I really liked that he's being very cocky to Sukuna, even though Sukuna is much more powerful than he is. He's got somebody that has the potential to eventually, I think, get up to his level. So he kind of standing his ground against a senior, which I thought was pretty cool. But during the fight, like, he just makes one of those little polymorphic dudes, like, you know, little, just a more powerful minion, sends him at Yuji. Yuji's just brawling with him. But while that happens, you see like this depiction of a cocoon, and he's like saying how during all this he's finally found the true essence of his soul, and you see that like butterfly or moth coming out of like a cocoon, and then he like sheds his skin. He essentially like just evolves, like it just metamorphoses. He changes the shape of his soul to fit this new form. And when he says like, you know, it's like, how about wishing me a happy birthday, Itadori? He's pretty much indicating that, like, that he has been reborn almost, or just, you know, this is a new stage for him, to the point where it is like a whole new person. I like that a lot, because the whole idea of the way his powers have worked, like him messing with the shape of the souls of other people and stuff, and then where he's been using it on himself, he's done it more in like this shape-shifting kind of style. But I think he's figured out that he can manipulate his soul in very intricate ways, as we've seen here, to eventually evolve. And I think that's part of, you know, that's tied to his whole thing of being born from the hatred of humans. It's like how fast humans evolve and how dangerous that can really be. So really good chapter. I like Mahito. I think Mahito has like a really high level of villain potential. Like right now, I would say in Weekly Shonen Jump, there's like the best villain, I would say, is Makima from Chainsaw Man. We're seeing like the end area of what she's capable of, and then like the high potential people are like Mahito, Dante, Shigaraki. Just trying to think off the top of my head. And then you have like ones that have been there forever and like kind of haven't really done any like of their big villain moments yet, like Kaido. But in Shonen Jump right now, I'd say Mahito is definitely one of the high potential people that can come out of this arc, you know, being in the running for like a, you know, just one of those classic villains. Like, you know, if you compared, you know, if you looked at Bleach, you know, you have someone like Aizen, or if you looked at, you know, Dragon Ball, you got like Cell or Frieza. I say Cell first just because of how poorly Frieza gets treated when he comes back. But you know what I mean? Just one of those like iconic villains for said series, and you can look at them and be like, know what their concept is and how exactly they are presented that complements that. But anyway, other than that, no, comment below, thumbs up the video, befriend the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Other than that, I appreciate everybody's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.